You know what the hardest bit in a Dark Souls game is? Just looking at it. Like, nah, I'm serious. Like, I haven't played a single one of them because they're all brown and grey with, big monsters with things bulging out of places they shouldn't be. And people are all caught up arguing if intentionally hard games should have an easy mode. And as far as I'm concerned, it only looks like there's about 3 points. 1, should you play a game the way the person that made it wanted you to play it? Like if the author of a book didn't want it to be a film, then it wouldn't happen, right? Or 2, is it better to let as many people as possible enjoy the full story of a game, rather than 90% of the people getting stuck and quitting at the first roadblock? Or 3, there are people out there with mental and physical disabilities, and there are people who mentally or physically don't have the reactionary skill that a game might require. Should we think of those things the same, and you'd give the same assistance like you would subtitles or a deaf person? Look, I'm not touching any of that. It all started, in my opinion, because hardcore gamers talked it up so much and they started looking down on everyone who didn't beat Bloodborne. And then everyone reacted by shouting for a lower barrier of entry. Just goes to show there's no point in gatekeeping, it only makes people want to break down the fence. Okay, let's start. Hey guys, I'm Comire, and we're having a hard talk about difficulty in video games. You might have heard of video game developer FromSoftware and their dark fantasy action games that are more difficult than the Angry Birds trying to drive an Uber. But have you ever wondered what game difficulty actually is? Let's say some game's easy mode has a monster with 20 health points and in hard mode it has 200. If I can't land 20 hits because my reactions are slower than a teenager trying to close an incognito tab after they thought their bedroom door was locked, then easy isn't easy. Or, if my hands are as fast as that teenager's just before their mum walked in on them and I can do it, well, doing the same thing 200 times isn't hard, it's repetitive. Proper difficulty is about fine-tuning a bunch of little things so a game isn't so hard it's frustrating and isn't so easy it's boring. And finding that sweet spot, like any teen will tell you, can be really satisfying. Most games can be described as a series of goals. Get strong enough to beat this thing. Learn this track well enough to win the race. Photograph a hoop after twatting it with an apple. Difficulty comes from how a player thinks, acts and feels based on what a game presents before, during and after completing a goal. I'll explain what I mean. Kirby's Return to Dreamland and Donkey Kong Country Returns both look like they belong on the Netflix Kids profile, but they're quite different games to play. In Kirby, enemies appear on-screen distance from you, or slow-moving, giving you a fair bit of reaction time. There's a lot of health food around, and you can take more than 5 hits before losing a life. If touched by an enemy, Kirby loses his current ability, although not every time, but you have the chance to get it back. Now, in Donkey Kong, a lot of enemies are advancing towards you, or you're dashing towards them, forcing you to make faster decisions. Extra pathways are barely hidden, daring you to take risky jumps for the rewards. And you can only take 2 hits before dying. You can increase that to 4 and get the ability to hover by getting one of the limited number of Diddy Kong barrels in a level. But if you take 2 hits, you lose hovering and the capacity to endure 4 hits, meaning even a powered up Donkey Kong can be more stressful than a Kirby with heartburn. The people behind the Marshmallow and Gorilla games just now decided those things and more because they were trying to create fun for the player in a certain way. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the lead creator behind FromSoftware's games and real-life plush toy, has gone on the record a bunch of times saying their games aren't trying to be cruel, they're trying to be conquered, making you feel weak so you feel mighty when you win. Game developers choose whether you have lots of health or if enemies move really fast in the same way they choose cartoony graphics or photorealistic graphics. It's all contributing to how they want you to feel when playing the game. Where, in the case of this lovable human panda bear, that feeling being suicidal. A FromSoftware game can be an intentionally tense experience, featuring anything from no pause function and the stamina meter limiting running and dodging, to having traps and enemies ambush you from hiding places, and the flying woo guy. Every 3 seconds feels like the jungle boss fight in Kingdom Hearts 1, when you respawn and instantly take a shotgun to the face. But they've used many techniques over the years to guide the player through their signature difficulty in different ways. Demon Souls, while being the prototype to Dark Souls, use multiplayer to help players triumph, features which are reused in future games. You can see tips from other players, see a recording of someone before they died, and summon other players to help in fights. The game's difficulty creates situations where helping each other is positive, as well as invading someone's game to murder them in an abandoned church. The Dark Souls trilogy wants its players to be patient, pressing the right buttons at the right time, like a kid on the run up to Christmas trying to get 2 TVs from their divorced parents. Multiple weapons of different weights and attack animation speeds require careful stamina management. Going all out will get your guts splayed all over Lordran. At all times, it's better to maneuver cautiously, down a health flask, wait for a gap, and go for a firm backstab. Pretty sure I just described high school. Bloodborne pushes the player to be aggressive. Shields are virtually non-existent in this game. Blocking an attack involves unloading the contents of your gun in a monster's chest, and regain health if you attack quickly after taking damage. What do the Bloodborne Hunter and Dracula have in common? They both just want to get stuck in. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice makes the player become the character of Sekiro. He is a ninja with a sword, a grapple hook, and some tricks up his prosthetic sleeve, and the player has to defeat enemies by sneaking around, by parrying attacks, by trying to break their stance to open them up for a highly damaging death blow. Sekiro doesn't have multiplayer and does have pausing. It's the most different, kind of feeling like the Rob Kardashian of the FromSoftware games. There's more verticality to the world, with the grapple hook letting you zip away from most non-boss fights. And then for big bosses, NPCs give hints how to win, and a red indicator appears telling you the right time to strike. And even after dying, Sekiro could resurrect himself like he was just pulling a sickie off work. Some people think those things make Sekiro a worse game than the others, but I think since it's all in service of that character and that story, it's fine. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And lastly, Elden Ring, a game with a background lore base written by George R.R. Martin and the gameplay icing from Hidetaka Miyazaki, like a clown's cream pie made of misery and severed body parts. This is all about freedom, playing like Dark Souls but with more options than The Sims with ADHD. A game can start with 10 different character classes. You can build whatever stats you want and get around 100 skills to attach and swap with multiple weapons. They can tackle enemies head-on with melee, with counterattacks and jump attacks, attack with magic and spirits. You can fight or flee by sneaking around, or you can fight and flee while riding a horse that can double jump like it's in Robot Unicorn Attack. You can travel literally anywhere and bump into Cthulhu in an open field, a ghost town, and a poison swamp or two. Up air currents, down underground catacombs, and in huge Castle Legacy dungeons. Elden Ring is a constant flow of challenges for you to overcome the way you want. It's the culmination of ideas from every FromSoftware title before it to make a game so accepting of your choices, yet so abusive it will dunk on you for not having a girlfriend. FromSoftware creates small ways to direct how a player tackles difficulty their intended way. Games often nudge you towards certain behaviour, from getting more points for non-stop stomping in Super Mario Bros. To likes for ladders in Death Stranding. But getting opened up like a tin of baked beans by every demon, dog and demigod can possibly become a brick wall. Everyone's different and may not have the reflexes, attention span, time to give, or motivation to persist against the same challenge over and over. Heck, sometimes repeatedly going at it makes you worse over time, and even if you win, It stopped being fun a long time ago. Difficulty needs to be like sexy underwear. Tough to get into at first, but flexible enough to satisfy everyone. If a player struggles, having a comeback mechanic acts like a shot of adrenaline, mitigating feelings of failure if they lose. In older Assassin's Creed games, your last health point lasts longer than the others. In Borderlands, you can be shot to the ground, facing near death, but if you kill someone else while crippled, you gain a second wind and carry on. In Metroid Dread, getting pinned down by an Emmy is a death sentence, but countering at the right time can stop a love injection from one of those robots off Mario Smash Football. And then get-back mechanics soften the sting too, like being able to recover lost items after death by travelling back to the place you bit the bullet. Seen in Dark Souls, or old school RuneScape, or after ramming a cricket bat into your corpse in Zombie U. There's also adjusting the game after frequent losses or wins to make the difficulty appropriate for a player's skill level. I know when I see the skip mission or lower difficulty prompt, I feel dirty than R. Kelly's search history, but not everyone does. A game might subtly help by raising and lowering things like soft lock auto-aim sensitivity, your damage output, or the time enemies are vulnerable for. Or they might overtly help by showing button prompts at the right time, offering hints, or dropping that invincibility power up so you can ignore all your problems like poor people on the street. Heck, you can figure out a player's skill level at the start from optional tutorials, or the opening missions, or just straight up ask them. And if the game doesn't lend itself to an ever-shifting AI, letting the player tweak game settings like enemy aggression, run speed, health recovered after consuming an item, can help them decide the perfect difficulty that works for them. In this instance, the game may make the player acknowledge that by changing the settings, they're choosing to play the game differently from the developer's intention. Once upon a time, altering a game setting to make you jump higher was called using a cheat code. Nowadays, you might call it turning on assist mode. To quote a man by the name of Soheim D, video games should be tough to beat, not tough to play. And no one should be denied the joy of twatting a hoot hoot with an apple. And that's all for today. Wow, that was pretty hard. But it's not too difficult for me to break into the Comire corner and see that Sarone Games Go liked the Square Enix fan. Thanks for that. I mean, maybe you can help me work out something. What's more difficult? Every single FromSoftware game? Or figuring out why they thought Dragon Quest Heroes, The World Trees Were and The Blight Below was a good title? It's an inside joke, you might want to watch a video to get that. Thanks for your comment, mate. And remember, you can also feature in the Comire Corner. I want to know how you feel about difficult games. Do you like the challenge, or do you just find it really frustrating? What's the hardest game you've played, or the toughest gaming moment you can remember? Let me know down below, or chuck me a tweet. And with that, I've been Comire, this has been Start Select. Thank you, and good night. Pokemon Legends Arceus is a refreshed approach to Pokemon's loop of exploring, catching, and battling by dropping you in an open environment to get actually attacked by vicious monsters. It's the most fun watching a child get ripped apart by wild animals since the comments section of Rebecca Black's Friday.